that I am a person who has PTSD as a result of child abuse, and I was a battered wife. So I know from my personal experience that cannabis has been a blessing to me in my suffering. Certainly, I'm disappointed today to say that this room wasn't filled to capacity, but I can understand why. As someone who lives with PTSD, it's hard to speak out. It's an illness that you suffer in silence. And I know that so many people who have PTSD suffer in silence, be they veterans or victims of crime, or I think of the people now from Hurricane Sandy who must be suffering in silence somewhere. So this is an illness that has a stigma. It has a lot of misunderstandings. It's an illness that not just the person who lives with it suffers from, but all of the people around them or the people who care about them suffer as well. And so it is an illness that I think is certainly we can cope with and deal with on a daily basis, but we suffer mostly in silence. So it takes a great deal of courage, and I want to thank each person here who either spoke on behalf of themselves or someone they love, because I know that this room, if there was no stigma on mental illness, if there was no stigma on the use of cannabis, this room would be filled to capacity, and you would hear so much more stories directly from the people. I'm fortunate enough to have epilepsy, so I qualify under the Michigan Medical Marijuana Program. I know that through my personal experimentation, I was diagnosed with PTSD when I was in my teens, and I know from my experimentation that it had benefited me from being able to stop the nightmares, stop the fear, stop the spasms, stop the outbursts, stop the anger. You know, let's think about for a minute why people might smoke marijuana is to feel happy. As a side effect, you know, maybe bliss or happiness is certainly something that people with PTSD or frankly any other painful disease would want to feel some sort of happiness or bliss. So I want to recognize that part of the medicine, that no amount of cognitive therapy or other therapies that I've been through were able to break through the nightmares or the fear or frankly bring me joy or happiness, but they were useful in granting me the tools to be able to cope with what I deal with. But the cannabis certainly has been a medication for me through my epilepsy. I discovered how it helped me there, but I didn't expect or understand that it was going to help with the PTSD. I thought there was nowhere for me to go. I thought I would have to live in silence and stay in silence. You see, I'm not a veteran, although I'm a daughter of a veteran. Both of my parents are Vietnam War veterans. My grandparents are veterans of World War I, II, and the Korean War. And I come from a long line of military. I was also a military spouse. And so I'm not just familiar with my own pain, but the pain of those from our military, and understand that it is a disease of silence, or an illness of silence, where we don't speak about it, but quietly. The military families that I knew who had someone who dealt with this, we acknowledged their cannabis use quietly and didn't make a big deal of it and hope that no one would ever get in trouble with the law, because it was something that if you use marijuana, you'll get in trouble with the law. Well, we have medical marijuana here in Michigan, and I'd like to see it be available to those who have PTSD, because they're using it whether it's going to be legal for them or not, and they should not be held in harm's way. And there should be integrity in our system for the medical cannabis program that we have. As Mr. Krowitz said, we need to stop the fraud and have some real numbers between who is a pain patient and who is a PTSD patient. So I urge you to please reconsider, and your recommendation today is just that. It is a recommendation, but to those of us who are here in the gallery and those who cannot be here, your recommendation means that we have validity in our suffering, and that we no longer will suffer in silence, that we can speak out. Because I know that with the permission to use medical cannabis, you will have people who will come out of the shadows who will say, I need help. Because that is that first step. That is the hardest step for someone with PTSD, is to say, I need some help. And if you know that there's going to be help out there, and those pharmaceutical commercials, when you see on TV, I get scared just hearing about all the side effects. So if you have an illness that you're suffering and you're fearful, Do you really want to go into the pharmaceutical alternative as your first option? Well, maybe for some people that is their only option. Medical marijuana is not a miracle drug. It doesn't work for everybody. But for that one person who it might be their miracle, that then I beg of you, please let that person have their option when they're under their doctor's care. And through that doctor's care, they work together to create a program, a path to wellness. And this medical cannabis as an option will give that path to wellness for so many and will help break the silence of those who suffer quietly and give them that first step to say, yes, I have this, I need some help. Thank you so very much.